Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Given to temptation, pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. This weekend, Dynamite Comics ran into a major controversy that cost it some business. Now, your Dynamite Comics decided to launch an Indiegogo with the comic artist Cecil doing a cover, and this cover got funded in less than an hour. Unfortunately, because many in the social justice social media mob did not like the alleged politics of this artist Cecil, what they decided to do was form an outrage mob and try to attack Dynamite Comics on social media. And Dynamite Comics, fearing the threats of the social justice social media mob, wound up deciding to cancel its campaign on Indiegogo with the artist Cecil, all because of the social justice social media mob and even some of their employees who were a part of the social justice social media mob. Now, as a fellow publisher in the fantasy market who was looking to break into the comics book market, I want to give some advice to Dynamite Comics. Now, I'm a big fan of Dynamite Comics and I have been reading their products for years. And at one point, I even got a request to submit my work to Dynamite Comics. And as a fellow publisher, I want to give them some advice. You just have to hang in there in the face of these controversies with these woke crowds, and you have to stand up for what you believe in, because as a publisher, you have to understand that these crowds, they're going to give you a hard time, but you have to hold and stand fast for what your business's mission was all about and for what you believe in, because as publishers, we are the people who are the ones who protect the First Amendment. And the First Amendment guarantees people the right to free speech and freedom of expression. And we have to stand fast to hold to that principle, because that First Amendment is the foundation of our United States Constitution. And that First Amendment is meant to protect speech that people don't like, and it's also meant to protect art that people don't like and artists they don't like, so that those people can have a platform to express their viewpoints, express their opinions, and express their art without any sort of punishment or infraction by the government or by people like these social justice social media mobs. The whole First Amendment was about allowing everybody an opportunity to have a platform in America. And it's not, and when I look at this social justice social media mob and what they did to Dynamite Comics, they practically showed how they wanted to undermine our First Amendment of our United States Constitution, because no group of individuals should have a right to go out here and bully a company into not working with an artist they want on products they want for their business, because what Dynamite Comics wanted to do was go out here and work with an artist of their choosing and work with that artist in order to get sales for their business. And from the way things look with this Cecil's big cover on Indiegogo, it looked like they were about to raise about $10,000 in less than 2 hours. That would have been a very profitable venture for Dynamite Comics. Unfortunately, because the people who were a part of the social justice social media mob didn't like who Dynamite Comics wanted to work with, they wanted to bully your Dynamite Comics into going out here and costing themselves that big payday. And that shouldn't be here in the United States, where again, our rights to free speech and freedom of expression are protected by the First Amendment, and it shouldn't be in a free economic marketplace where businesses are allowed to make business decisions that allow themselves to be profitable. And that's the other advice I want to give to Dynamite Comics as a publisher who's been in business for over 10 years. You control your business. You are the owner of your business, and who you choose to hire to work on your projects should be based on what you want to do and not on the social justice, social media mob's whims. As a business owner myself, I can tell you I will work with whoever wants to work with me. And if I were to get an opportunity to work with a Cecil and he wanted to do an Indiegogo with me, I would have no problem working with a Cecil to doing a cover for an ISIS book or an Eastine book, or even one of my other characters like Spinsterella or the Lilith from Eternal Night. It would not be a problem for me because I don't care about the politics of an individual artist or an individual writer. It is all about whether this artist or this writer can generate sales for my imprint, and it is all about the quality of their work when they're working with me. So when I look at these woke crowds who want to form these social justice, social media mobs, I ignore them because I know that in 99% of the cases of those people who are a part of these social justice, social media outrage mobs, 99% of these people do not buy any products that they complain about. They just want to be angry for the sake of being angry. And the only people I want to listen to are the paying customers in most cases. Now, I myself, as a person who grew up as a kid and was bullied in junior high school and high school, I can tell you that when you go out here and you cave into the bullies like the social justice, social media mobs, what happens is those people gain power over you, and when they gain power over you, they continue to try to take more power. And when they go out here and they bully businesses like Dynamite Comics, they don't just start by telling you what artists to go out here and hire. They eventually start trying to tell you what type of content to produce in between the pages of your work. And that shouldn't be the case for a publisher. A publisher should be free to go out here and publish whatever they want. They should be free to publish the stories that they want, and they should be free to work with the artists that they want. And nobody should be able to tell that publisher who they should work with or what type of projects they should work on, because that type of bullying, again, runs counter to our United States Constitution, and it runs counter to our First Amendment. And these woke social justice, social media mobs, they run counter to the business here in the United States and our Constitution. And we should be pushing back against these kinds of people because they don't have a right to tell any business who they should work with or what products they should produce in a free market economy. None of these social justice, social media mobs should be able to dictate to we the people. And many in the comic book world, we really need to get a better grip on having a resolve to stand up to these people, because in 2019, I ran into my own social justice, social media mob when I made a video refuting a false narrative regarding black men and passports and traveling overseas to get involved with foreign women. But I stood my ground as related to the outrage mob, and that mob came after me very hard, making memes against me, making all sorts of social stalking. I had people stalking me and harassing me, and I had numerous response videos, and I even lost some patrons who were donating to me on Patreon, and I had to cut out a lot of Facebook friends But the reason why I stood my ground was because, one, I knew from the facts that I had researched on that this narrative was false, and two, I wanted to protect black men who were getting scammed by these female predators, and I wanted to give other men information that would help them be able to avoid these female predators. Because as an author of books on men's issues, I knew that the facts that I was presenting were accurate, and the thing was, I had to stand my ground in the face of the social media mob and their cyberbullying and their cyber stalking. And I had to stand that ground because I, as a person, again, who stands up for the First Amendment and stands up as a publisher for free speech and freedom of expression, I could not let the social justice, social media mob go out here and try to silence me or silence the facts. And a year later, now many of these same people who were against me in August of 2019 are now using the same talking points that I was presenting in my arguments regarding black men and traveling overseas for relationships with foreign women. So it proved to me that if you stand your ground against these social justice, social media, cyber bullies, you can still survive. Yes, you may take a loss in the short term, but if you stand in the long term, people will stand with you. So when I look at Dynamite Comics right now, I see them in the same place I was back in 2019, and they needed to stand their ground. They should not have withdrawn the campaign, and they should not have canceled the campaign, because any publisher out here like myself, we know that, again, as the people who protect the First Amendment, we have a mission to go out here and stand up for what we believe in. Moreover, as publishers, we have to stand by the artists and the writers who work with us and work for us, because if they create some content that one group finds offensive, we have to continue to stand by those creators and their work regardless of their political beliefs, because it's about protecting the First Amendment, and it's about protecting the speech that people don't like, in order to make sure that there is a discourse, and a discourse that allows people to see both sides of the argument, both sides of the forum, and allows each side an opportunity to speak on the forum. When you have people like these social justice, social media mobs out here, and they get an opportunity to silence people, what they do is prevent us from getting a full objective picture of a discussion, a full objective picture of a discourse. And what they want to do is make it where everybody agrees with their opinion and believes that their opinion is the only opinion. And as someone who grew up in a junior high school and high school culture in the black community where this mindset was the social norm, let me tell you that these people, they do not stop once they get people to bend the knee. They want everybody to think the way they want to think, and they want everybody to be just like them. And that's just not how the real world works. In the real world, you get differences of opinion, you get different viewpoints, you get different ideas, and that diversity of thought allows us to see the world in a larger perspective, and it allows people to see a world where we get different viewpoints and different aspects of life. And your social justice, social media mob, these are very narrow, like the Black Passport males, were very narrow-minded individuals. They want everybody to have the opinions that they want to have. They want everybody to have the viewpoints that they want to have. And I'm sorry, that doesn't work in the real world. In the real world, real people have independent thought. I mean, God gave everybody free will, but these people want everybody to follow, the world from their own will. and they want everybody to submit. And again, Dynamite Comics, my advice to them is you made a mistake by going out here and bending the knee, but you need to understand why it's important for a publisher to always stand their ground, because again, we are the protectors of the First Amendment. We are the ones who make sure that people are allowed an opportunity to have freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And we have to protect the writers and artists out here, because if we don't protect them, if we don't support them, then all we're going to get are the people from that social justice social media mob. And again, the social justice social media mob, these people really don't understand about anything about freedom of speech and freedom of expression. They are in their feelings, and in many cases, when they're in their feelings, they want to make all these threats about how they're not going to buy anything, how they're not going to support your work. And even some of the people who work for you may talk about they want to quit. But when in the case of the people who want to quit, just let them go, because there are guys like me who will be glad to have that job and be glad to work on a Dynamite property, and other writers out there who would be glad to have that job. But in the case of the other people out there saying they won't buy the products and support their products, there will be many more who will support that product because they see a publisher standing up for free speech and freedom of expression. And that's the most important thing a publisher has to stand for, because if we don't stand for freedom of speech and freedom of expression and protect writers and artists when they are presenting artwork that people don't like on a publishing platform, then what happens to the art that people do like eventually? What happens is the only viewpoints we get from because these fascists are controlling everything is their narrative, and their narrative, it shouldn't be the only thing on there. That's why when I look at these so-called woke social justice social media mobs, I say that, yeah, publishers have to stand up against these types of mobs, and American people have to start standing up against these type of mobs, because these bullies out here, what they want to do is impose their will on people, and they're not that many of them. I mean, I look at these so-called Twitter mobs, and they should not be dictating anybody's business. I mean, as a publisher myself, I don't let them dictate my business, and I don't think any other company should let these mobs dictate their business. Yes, these people make a lot of noise on places like Twitter and Facebook, and I've run into these kinds of people on Twitter and Facebook. These same people who would tell me that characters like ISIS are too light-skinned, or Eastham are too light-skinned to be so-called black, or not black enough. Many of these same people who are a part of these social justice, social media mobs, they talk a good game, but when I start asking them critical questions like, how many books have you bought? That's when they start to get silent, or that's when they start making excuses about they can't afford to buy the product. These same people never wanted to buy any sort of product. In many cases, all they want to do is make a lot of noise, get a lot of attention, but at the end of the day, they're not interested in generating any sales, and they want to try to threaten you so that you will try to bend the knee to them. But these same people, once you bend the knee to them, won't buy anything at the end of the day. That's why I've learned to practically ignore these social justice, social media mobs. I've learned to ignore their complaints, because a lot of times these people don't want to. They don't want to be customers, but then they want you to give them customer service. But part of getting customer service is supporting the product, and these people don't want to support the product. All they want to do is generate a lot of anger and controversy on social media, and that doesn't generate sales, and they want you to get scared and then cave in, but you can't cave in to these kinds of people. That's what I learned many years ago, and that's what I've learned to do with these kinds of people, is you just have to ignore them in a lot of cases, and press on. Because when I looked at that Indiegogo, and at one point it was at $10,000, that should have been Dynamite's primary focus, is generating those sales with those paying customers, because at the end of the day, it's the paying customers that should be a priority. I don't have time for the 10 or 12 woke social justice mob people are a part of the social justice social media mob. Those people, they make a lot of noise. They get really angry online, but at the end of the day, these aren't the people who are going to go out here and pick up a product, and they're not the people who are going to put money on the table. Many publishers like Dynamite have to understand that when it comes down to social media is only a small portion of the world, and a very, very insignificant portion of the world. You can't see it as something major or important, and you can't let social media dictate your business, because social media is not the world, and social media is not the average customer out here. You have to focus on the living, breathing customers who are putting money on the table, and those people need to be your priority from day one. You can't worry about the social justice social media mob, because the social justice social media mob is 99% hot air. They are the equivalent of the guys who stand up in the store for 2-3 hours and buy nothing at the comic shop. They flip through all the books and buy nothing. Or they're the guys who go to Starbucks and sit there on a Wi-Fi with their laptop while their friend is drinking 1 cup of tea for 99 cents. And these freeloaders, yes, they want to make a lot of noise about a product, but at the end of the day, they're not buying anything. They're not interested in buying anything, and that's why smart publishers like myself pay them no attention, because they really don't want anything. All they want to do is start drama, and drama, again, is about getting them attention at your expense. And once they've got their attention at your expense, they could care less about your business, and that's why you need to let them go about their business and take care of yours. I mean, again, if I had an opportunity to work with an artist who's going to generate this kind of money, I'd have no problem working with that artist or anyone who would want to help build the SJS Direct imprint. And I would advise Dynamite Comics to have no problem working with whoever wants to help their business move forward. Because at the end of the day, especially in a struggling comic book industry right now, you want to work with those who are going to bring you big sales. Don't worry about the politics. Focus on the profits, because it's the profits that are going to take your business to the next level. And once you to go to the next level, you won't have to worry about the woke mobs. You won't have to worry about cancel culture. These people will cancel themselves, because most of your paying customers will push past these people, and the paying customers, they will respect you because you stood up for what you believed in. And that's what a business has to do out here. They have to stand up for what they believe in, and stand up for their principles, and stand up for their products, because that's how you earn respect from the customer. Because when you stand up, like the CEO of Barilla stood up against the woke mob, Barilla wasn't fazed, and Barilla continued to go on. I mean, the woke mob came after Barilla, and the Barilla CEO practically told them to F off, and Barilla is now making more money than it did before. And many more companies need to do the same thing with these woke mobs, and they need to start asking questions. Are you buying our product? Are you supporting our product? And ignore all of the complaints, all of the boycott statements, because these people never bought anything in the first place, and all they want to do is get you to bend the knee so that they can play the victim and then profit from your expense for getting attention for themselves. Again, when I look at Dynamite Comics, I see it as a really strong company. I really see it as a good company. They made one mistake in bending the knee to this social justice social media mob, and what they need to do now is regroup, come back, because you can bounce back, because I bounced back from the social justice, social media mob with black men in passports, and you can do the same thing too. Yes, it's a hard road to bounce back from that type of attack on social media, but Dynamite Comics, I believe, can bounce back. I believe Dynamite Comics can move forward, and this can be a bump in the road, but it's a bump in the road where the company can learn from the lesson, and they can learn from that lesson how to deal with these social justice, social media mobs, their cyberbullying, their cyber stalking, and be able to then take those lessons and apply them to their business model and just focus on doing business, focus on being a neutral company that is focused on profits, and be focused on primarily working with the customers who are paying for the product, and not focus on the loiterers on social media and these social justice, social media mobs who buy nothing, do nothing, and are about nothing at the end of the day. If you want to pick up some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, the Spinsterella trilogy, the Thetas, and my men's issues books, like The Man Crisis, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords and the iBookstore and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, ISIS, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed, all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.